Batman the Night issue 3, Chip Zdarsky and Carmine DJ Domenico on the art. This is obviously to set up the serial killer stuff a bit last issue, but this issue starts off with the serial killer being like one of the key narrators and like sort of his inner monologue as the police are looking through his mansion because there's been this robbery, but he's just nervous that they're going to see something that, you know, reveals who he is. He's like, it's not time yet. It's not time for them to know these things about me, my secrets, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, man, this book like feels so different every issue. And maybe that's a good thing, but it does feel like it's doing these wildly different things each issue.
It feels fresh every time. And I think that is intentional. The idea being that Bruce is always learning new skills, right? Each time. He's taking a different approach and, you know, learning a different skill set for his arsenal of being Batman. So each issue feels a bit different because of that.
Yeah, and so in the first one, right, it was a psychological kind of thing. It's Hugo Strange, right? And then the second one, now we've had him with the cat burglar. And then this one put the spotlight on... the
detective.
God, why am I drawing a blank?
Ducard.
Ducard, thank you. I kept wanting to call him Liam Neeson's, and that's not Liam Neeson's. But yeah, Ducard. So I do like how Zdarsky's shifting it, but it's seemingly the same story. At least this was more of a pickup from issue 2 than issue 2 was issue 1.
This was a very good issue with a phenomenal final page.
This was a very different issue in the sense that there was like actually like a threat where this serial killer was going to murder more people, and they had something to stop. And it went out of its way to show Bruce making mistakes, Bruce getting Ducard shot for a start because he couldn't keep his cool and not keep staring at the bad guy that they were trying to lure in. And ultimately this idea that Bruce, regardless of his mistakes, when he realizes like who the victim is, he runs off to go and help. Like he has to go and try and save them. And he ultimately does. Like his presence interfering in what the killer's doing does save some of this guy's family. The main target, the husband, was already dead. Not much to do for him, but there were still family members to save. So it kind of shows you his drive. It points out that he does have this anger and does his jump. He'll jump at the violence a bit. And the cat burglar kind of points this out and says, you know, like, I kind of miss that fire you have, but at the same time, I also don't want this like angst that goes with it.
There's also the tying it into, you know, being an orphan, which is a big part of the serial killer's motive, but also, you know, he's just made the kids of the family. He's murdered an orphan, or is trying to anyway. I think the mum still survives by the end. But, you know, again, this idea that this is more personal for Bruce than it normally is.
Right.
Yeah. And of course he finds out that Ducard was hired by Alfred to track him down. But he rightly predicts that Alfred only paid him to find him, not to like bring him in, not to like kidnap him and drag him back home. And it does lead to a moment where after everything goes down, Bruce calls Alfred and says, like,
leaves a voicemail.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I should have told you before I left. I love you, Alfred. I need to figure some stuff out. And, you know, that final page is Alfred listening to this message over and over again as he cries. It's like, oh man, what are you doing to me here, Zdarsky?
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah. So it still kind of falls into this weird place where I'm like, like this book is this oddity of like, it's kind of like an origin. It's fitting around, you know, before year one stuff.
Maybe this is just me, but I think it's more interesting now that Zdarsky's taking on the main Bat book. Because if this is, even if this isn't canon, if this is, okay, Zdarsky's kind of maybe going to pull from some of this, and this is kind of the blueprint for his Bruce in some ways. Yeah. Like, okay, maybe he'll take elements from this, even if not like literal, like just this is canon, but just like, you know, maybe some characters here.
It wouldn't surprise me if this blonde cat burglar shows up in this Bat book.
This feels like a backdoor pilot, right?
It does, yeah.
Like, this might not be the perfect, you know, what the show would become, but you can see the pieces there.
I will say, like, his handling of the Dick and Bruce, or sorry, the Bruce and Alfred relationship in this issue does fill me with, I mean, not that I was worried in any way, but this gives me a lot of hope for how he's going to handle some of the Bruce relationships going forward in his Batman book.
He clearly gets it. And it's the same way we talk about, like, Tom Taylor getting some of these relationships, right? This fits in exactly like that. Well, like this fits in alongside those issues.
I mean, Zdarsky and the Bruce and Jason relationship in that Teardrops through Urban Legends, I thought was that was really well too. So, yeah. So I know I'm excited, and also I like that he's keeping the theme of each of these pieces is a new piece of armor for Bruce. Each of these people that he works with, and that's what's gonna make
that suit of armor was a big piece of the first issue.
Yeah, the metaphorical suit of armor that he's building by like gaining all these skills and experiences. Yeah,
knowledge. And then when we saw in the solicits, right? I don't know if you read the solicit box, but he's gonna learn the art of hunting from someone far up north. And so so it seems to be we're going to do more globetrotting, right? Which is kind of what I expected from the first issue. So
yeah, I think this was kind of like essentially a little two-parter, right, in Paris, and we might have a third part now with Ducard, but that might not be in Paris.
Yeah, right? That might be more journeying. Maybe he may follow Ducard to wherever his next mission or his next job is. Yeah.
Which I always love this part of Bruce's journey. Is, like I always go back to that Tynan story in the backup of him learning to fight in the pit and how nobody would fight him anymore. Like I love the journey of Bruce Wayne.
Maybe this is clearly what this book is more actually supposed to be, is that it's not it's specifically the Bruce on his travels before he comes back to Gotham. That's what this book is ultimately.
Yeah.
So maybe we end with him making the choice to come home, and then if you want to link that to,
I think the final few pages are him reuniting with Alfred.
If you want to link that to year one and say, oh yeah, you can sort of like slot that into your loose continuity by putting it before year one, then you can.
It's year 0.5.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I would never recommend someone read it before they read year one. I would say, read basic Batman stuff first, then go back and fill this in.
But I can see this. Yeah. While obviously we're saying right now it's not canon. That so far, I don't think there's really anything that says it couldn't be. Not really. Maybe you have to fudge some of the details here or there, but the general idea.
That's just comics in general, though.
Yeah, but he's also hitting on the Batman tropes that we know, like again, Ducard. And I'm sure we're going to see him run into Roz at one point.
This definitely feels like one of those books in the same vein as The Killing Joke, where it maybe wasn't intended to be canon, but hey, if writers want to just use this as like, they're going to consider this as part of their origin, why not?
Yeah. So, but no, I really enjoy it. And the whole serial killer aspect on this one, I thought I liked that because it was Ducard putting the pieces together and then saying how the cops were going to mess it up. Right.
Yeah.
Like, and that's very Batman, right? That's like, oh, they missed a key piece of the evidence that, they didn't interpret.
And that was the other part of this that we've not really mentioned yet, is the idea of Bruce learning that he has to kind of think like the criminals do, and has to like, because he keeps being like impressed by Ducard, because Ducard's like, oh, the killer will do this next, and he's like, how do you know? How, like, he's like, well, you have to get in their heads. So that's kind of where he goes, where he recognizes in the photos that this killer he's got a main target. He's got someone that he's building up to as his finale, as the person, because the killer's going to have to go on the run soon because they're getting too close to him. So he knows he has to strike his final victim soon.
And it's not who he claims it's going to be. It's like, no, it's more personal than that. And I think it's interesting how it's such a logical extension for Bruce of what he was last time, where, hey, if he wants to be the best at, catching the criminals, he has to be a bit of a criminal, which is why he joined up with the cat burglar, right? To learn from them because they're the best at it. This is kind of an extension of that, whereas if he wants to catch them, he has to learn to think like them and understand them.
Yeah, so that's what leads him to the final victim, where he saves the rest of the family and gives us kind of the happy ending.
Giandomenico's art is fantastic, and the first half is solid, really moody, but the second half, where he gets into the action, Bruce jumping through the windows and all the close-ups on the eye of the dead body, just stunning stuff.
Yeah, so very good stuff. I'd probably say it's my favorite of the 3 issues so far as well.
That's fair.
I think.
Yeah. Because I have like I've gone. Issue 2 really turned me around. That first issue I thought was kind of rough because it just felt like isn't to be doing Batman tropes. Then we got to Paris and it didn't do that at all. And now it feels like it's becoming what I wanted it to be. So, but yeah, I think I'd agree with that.
I don't know what I wanted it to be. I went into this not having a clue what this was going to be, and then the first issue was a bit weird and non-conventional.
Well, we knew it was going to be kind of the travels of Bruce, right? Like that's kind of what the solicit was.
Yeah, I think it's settled into something a bit more traditional as it's gone on, I guess. But not in a bad way.
Because we finished that first issue, I didn't know if we were going to skip ahead to like 5 years into Batman, or if it was going to be whatever. It was kind of up in the air at that point. Whereas now it's like, oh no, it feels like it's settling into this is the travels of Bruce, as he's learning before he comes
understand
back.
what the book is now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, all right, Matt, what you giving Batman the Night issue 3?
I'm giving this an 8.5.
All right, Connor.
I'll give it a solid 8, I think.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with the solid 8. So there you go.